you ever watch Dragon Ball? No, not that one. No, not that one either. If you did watch any Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z back around the 2010s like me, then it's likely you remember these kind of videos everywhere. Power levels are always fun to think about, but since they didn't exist yet in early Dragon Ball, people would speculate on what power levels they thought characters should have. And amongst all this speculation, there was one shining beacon of hope. This guide would supply tons of fun information for Dragon Ball fans, one of which being a guide about Kid Goku's power level throughout all of original Dragon Ball. For years, people would use this guide as reference to calculate the power of weaker characters. There was just one issue. This guide is complete nonsense. As we are shown throughout Dragon Ball Z, power levels are linear. Like if Goku has a power level of 9,000, and Vegeta has a power level of 1,800,000, then Vegeta is 2 times stronger than Goku. This is fairly consistent until you try and use power levels for early Dragon Ball. People justify this inconsistency by assuming the difference between early power levels is greater than a 1-to-1 ratio. But I think a far easier conclusion to come to is to realize the guides simply don't know what they're talking about. It wasn't written by Akira Toriyama, and I know that guy didn't care about this kind of stuff. Before we get into it, there's a few more infamous guides on this topic. In 1989, the 31st issue of Weekly Shonen Jump featured a special section on battle powers. A lot of these are canon numbers from the series, but a few are speculation, like Chi-Chi at 130. While not impossible, it's very unlikely that Chi-Chi is this close to Master Roshi's level of 139, as we don't really have a good way to gauge Chi-Chi since she gets low-diffed in her one fight against Goku. Then, there's my favorite example of bad power levels. Around the time of the third Dragon Ball promo film, they released a pamphlet featuring many characters' battle powers. This pamphlet has some of the most insane numbers people still use today, like Bulma being at 12, making her stronger than Kid Goku at the start of the series, or Emperor Pilaf at 40, and most importantly, Ox King at 900. If he was that strong, he could have soloed the entire OG Dragon Ball series with ease, which we know isn't true, as he was definitely weaker than Master Roshi. I still see people using that Ox King number in videos today. Someone needs to bring balance to the power scalers, and it looks like it might have to be me. So, to start out, we need to focus on what we know for sure. Those are Baby Goku at 2 from the Bardock special.
Hey there, Kakarot. It's your daddy. Let's see what kind of power level we've got here. All right. Whoa! 10,000! That's my boy! Wait, Broly? Here we go. Kakarot. 2! Crap.
Then, we have the all-important farmer with a shotgun, F5. Then, we skip all the way to Master Roshi at 139 at the beginning of Z. Unfortunately, we know Roshi isn't at this number from the beginning because we know he got stronger during the series. We will get back to that though. What is the basic power level of a human? It seems to directly correlate with raw strength. So, a farmer is at a 5. I think it's fair to put the average guy at a 4, considering most of you probably won't be as strong as a farmer. Plus, we aren't all wielding our trusty shotguns. So, someone like Teen Bulma, who's a teen and on the weaker side, would probably sit somewhere around 2 to 3. Now, how strong is Kid Goku? We see him lift a car and take a bullet to the face. Pretty impressive. How strong is that? Well, the average person can lift 22.7 kilograms. Bulma's car isn't that big, so I'll say it's as heavy as a small car, 1,200 kilograms. Goku lifts that sucker over his head. That makes Goku over 53 times stronger than average. That makes Kid Goku 265. Uh-oh, that doesn't work. The guide's 10 never made sense, but this? Well, we don't know what cars weigh in Dragon Ball's world, and it's a really small car, so we could assume Bulma's car is only like 30% the weight of a car in our world, so Goku would then be around 79. You might think that's high, but really it's not. Goku is trained by Grandpa Gohan, and the average weak adult Saiyan is around 1500. I always thought the power level of 10, 2 times the power level of the farmer with a shotgun, didn't really make sense since considering Goku took a bullet to the face. So, our crew journeys off in a vaguely western direction, and have many encounters with many obstacles, one of which being Yamcha. Yamcha isn't weak, but he's certainly not that strong compared to Goku. But we can be nice and say he's half Goku's level at a 38, still being far above average and enough to be an infamous bandit. The Pilaf gang are probably below average physically, but wield the power of technology, like Bulma. But they're still around 1 to 4 each. Goku sees the moon and he goes all the way to 790. After this, he goes to train with Roshi and meets Krillin. Roshi tests their speed, getting them to run 100 meters. While Krillin finishes in 10.4 seconds, Goku gets 8.5. That means Krillin is roughly 80% of Goku's power. So Krillin starts at 63. Then they go train physically for a while. I also think it's funny to do launch here. She's pretty average, so like a 3. But as the first Super Saiyan, she gets a 50 times multiplier, putting her at 150. What? Have you ever seen her lose? Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. But I still think she gets stronger in her blonde form. Let's say a 5 times instead of 50. So she's a respectable 15. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is where things get kind of tricky. So we know the 22nd Budokai Tenkaichi Roshi is at 139. But we know he got stronger in preparation for it. So current Roshi has to be weaker. So that being said, I think the most accurate way to find the correct numbers is for us to go forward and actually reverse engineer the power levels. So, Roshi at the 22nd Budokai is 139. This is after Goku surpassed him while taking on the Red Ribbon Army. So Roshi tried to one-up Goku to keep him humble. That being said, I don't think he actually reached Goku's level in this arc. Roshi had a pretty even fight with Tien while probably a bit on the back foot, so I want to give Tien the edge at 150. Goku, then, despite losing, seemed to be slightly stronger than Tien, so like 163. Crane Hermit gets taken out during their fight, and I feel like we can all assume he's below Roshi, so around 115. Okay, now that we've settled that, let's work our way back. Goku, while having a fun match against Krillin, clearly has a massive advantage. So I'm going to say Krillin reached around 122. This is probably Yamcha's highest point of relevance in this series. He took on Tien, and I want to say he actually put up a pretty decent fight. He was also training with Krillin in prep for this tourney, so let's say they were rivals, putting him on even footing with Krillin, at 123. Chaozu relies more on his abilities than power, but he's not weak. Still, he's clearly below Krillin by a lot in raw power. So like 90. Manwolf is many things. A lover, a furry hater, and apparently a 30th degree black belt. That's pretty cool. Let's say he's 10 times stronger than the average guy, so 40. Pomput was nice enough to break the wall to improve Roshi and Krillin's view, but still got one shot. So let's say he could give Manwolf a good fight at 42. In the prelims, Goku fought King Choppa, who actually took some hits. He's unironically pretty strong. That being said, Goku isn't trying that hard, so we'll give him a 100. Continuing in reverse, we go back 3 years before the time skip. As we know, Roshi reached 139 in an attempt to reach Goku's level. Let's be generous to Roshi and assume he succeeded at his goal of surpassing pre-time skip Goku. So Goku here is below 139. Let's go with 133. Grandpa Gohan was on the back foot against Goku before he grabbed his tail, so I want to put him around 124. Before that, Goku duels some monsters in Hell's Toilet. What? In it, Goku fights Devilman, who is getting bodied by Goku, before resorting to his Devil Beam. He takes a few hits before that, so he's clearly above the Mummy, but far below Goku, so like 94-ish. The Mummy gets one shot by Goku, but beats Yamcha, so I'll say 82. And since we brought up Yamcha, he lost to that Mummy. Previously, we said he was at 38. He was training, but the Mummy clearly puts him down easily, so he's probably like 63. Here, the Invisible Man was beating Yamcha, because, he's invisible. But Yamcha clearly had a pretty decent power advantage, so he's like a 39. Before that, Krillin fights the vampire. This entire fight is kind of a gag, but we know Krillin is stronger than his earlier number of 63. That being said, I don't necessarily think the vampire was stronger than Krillin. He got a bite in and Krillin started bleeding out before being knocked out of the ring. Still, being able to land that bite means he had to have been decently strong. So he's at least around 57. We'll get back to Krillin in a bit, as this fight doesn't give us a lot of clear data. Puar and Upa fight here, proving power isn't everything, with their power levels of 1 and 2 respectively. Now, back to the climax of the Red Ribbon Army saga. Goku is still at the previously stated 133. Black and Red seem to be normal humans, so 5 for Black and 3 for Red. I'd give the average Red Ribbon soldier a 6 for military training. Man, Goku really is just building up a body count. Now, we go back to Tao Pai Pai. This is a pretty cool point in the story, as this is the first real villain to straight up beat Goku. Goku's 133 is his power after his training with Korin. This level lets him surpass Tao by a decent margin, so let's say Tao is at 121. Goku goes from not being able to keep up with Korin to being able to keep up enough to tickle him. I'd wager Korin is still stronger than post-training Goku, so let's give him a 142. Pre-training Goku loses to Tao pretty badly, so I'm gonna put him down to 105. Bora was very strong for a regular guy, and could tank bullets, so like 52, cause I can't imagine him losing to Wolfman or Pomput. Oh, we're at the Dr. Slump crossover. I'd say Ariley's power fluctuates between 1 and infinite, as a true gag character. General Blue is very strong compared to the rest of the army, but he's probably weaker than Krillin without his power, and I'll get back to this too, as we still can't get a clear read on Krillin yet. Back a bit more to Muscle Tower, we encounter General White, who is above average but not that strong. I'll give him a generous 7. Android 8 punches him out, but it's unclear how strong he actually is, as he's a pacifist. Goku takes on the Jiggler here, and has the classic, "can absorb any attack you throw at it" trick. It also has a laser attack that stuns Goku, so it might actually be stronger than him. So the Jiggler gets a surprising 111. Ninja Murasaki isn't that strong compared to Goku, but he keeps the fight going long enough for me to give him a decent level of 34. Okay, now we can get some stuff done. Major Metallotron gives Goku a good fight, but when going all out, Goku takes him out. I'm gonna give the Major a 101, and because of that, we can assume Android 8 is above that as a superior android. But we still don't have a clear number, as he doesn't really fight. Colonel Silver takes more than one hit from Goku to get knocked out, so he's actually pretty impressive. Like a 49. And with that, we have finally made it back to the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai. Alright, now let's get back to the beginning of the arc. To recap, Goku pre-Roshi training was at a 79, and Krillin was at 63. Goku, after this arc, is at 105. This is where we run into a bit of a hiccup. Krillin thinks he'll lose to his bullies during the prelims, but if he was really a 63 pre-training, his bullies either have to be really strong, or Krillin has to have been a lot weaker than 63 for this to make sense. This contradicts with the 100-meter race test, but let's get more into that. The 100-meter world record is 9.58. Krillin's best is 10.4. Goku gets 8.5. When you really look at this scene, it makes no sense. Goku is barely faster than the fastest normal human, and Krillin is slower. In my opinion, this is one of those scenes we have to take with a grain of salt. Like the scene in Dragon Ball Z where Goku struggles to lift 40 tons. The author is trying to portray something impressive, but in the context of the story, isn't actually that impressive. So retroactively, if we ignore this scene, we can put Krillin far lower in terms of power. His bullies seem confident going into the tournament, so they're probably pretty strong, like 12 and 14. I'd wager Krillin was training his entire life. I'd give him an 8 at his first appearance. Very strong compared to the average, but not that strong. Krillin, near the end of the arc, is keeping up, but is clearly weaker than Roshi, who is probably slightly above Goku's 105. And he used a lot of energy to literally blow up the moon. So I'd give him a 110. Krillin receives one of the biggest boosts seen in early Dragon Ball, going from a relatively low 8 to 98. Yamcha is also here, and has been training, but thinks his training can't compare to Roshi's training, meaning he probably didn't get that big of a boost, going from 38 to 57. Bacterian is mostly a gag fight. He's a massive dude, so he's probably strong, like a 20, 4 times stronger than the average guy. Giran has a lot of gimmicks, but is still strong in terms of raw power, so like a 43. Nam gives Goku a good fight, so he's quite powerful, but Goku looks pretty undamaged after, so we can give Nam an 81. Ranfan fights Nam, and despite her degenerate strategy, she's probably still a martial artist. Her punches don't damage Nam, but it looks like her hits hurt, so we can give her a decent 27. Now, Goku goes Great Ape, and in this arc, with a 10 times multiplier, he's reached 1005. It's baited that Roshi is going to kill Goku in his buff form, but I think that he himself and others were overestimating his power. What I'll say is I think he gets a decent multiplier, but it's not 10 times. Piccolo blows up the moon at the start of Z, and his power at the time was 408. So Roshi would need to get 4 times stronger to 440. I don't think he would have been able to take down Great Ape Goku, but he did become very strong. The buff form seems impractical though, as he doesn't use it in any of his other fights, especially against Demon King Piccolo later. It probably takes too long to charge up. Okay, now we can move on to... Oh no, I forgot General Blue! Okay, now that we finally know how strong Krillin was at 98, we know Blue is keeping up with Krillin, but losing before he used his power. I'd give him 88. Okay, now we can finally move in chronological order. Directly after the tournament, Krillin is found dead. Goku goes to confront Tambourine, but it's mentioned Goku is exhausted from the tournament, so we can't measure Tambourine yet. Goku recovers and meets Yajirobe, who is comparable to Goku in terms of power, putting him at a surprising 164. Symbol shows up to fight Yajirobe, but gets taken down. Yajirobe isn't very tired, so I'll give him 129. Tambourine is much stronger than Symbol and gets taken down with low difficulty by Goku, so I'll say 143. Piccolo shows up and takes care of business, and while caught off guard at first, proceeds to tank Goku's strongest attack and beat him down to near death. Piccolo has gotta be like 187. Goku survives, and the remaining gang try to seal Piccolo, but none of their power levels have changed. At the end of it, Piccolo regains his youth, but it's unclear how much stronger it made him. We can just give him a buff to like 201. Piccolo overthrows the monarchy and Goku goes to see Korin for more training. He gives him the MacGuffin water and Goku gets stronger at the risk of killing himself. It's kind of vaguely alluded to that the water accesses your hidden potential. So, another thing I wanted to go over. This is the closest enough to death in OG Dragon Ball that we could consider him getting a Saiyan Zenkai boost. They come up much later in the Frieza saga, and is a power of a Saiyan to get a big power boost after being close to death. When he lost to Tao, it was because the Dragon Ball blocked the killing blow for him, so he ended up pretty safe. But here it was very clear that Goku was beaten to near death and needed to be healed. So, you could argue Goku's power-up isn't just from the water, but also a Zenkai boost. When Goku completes the water ritual, Korin points out Goku got a massive boost. Obviously Toriyama hadn't thought of Zenkais yet, but it's pretty easy to sneak it in here and still be consistent with the story. So let's say Goku went from 63 to 191 from his Zenkai, and then the Ultra Divine Water brought him up to 234. Piccolo declares that May 9th will henceforth be known as Piccolo Day, and Goku sets off to beat him. Tien is also there, but he hasn't gotten any stronger, so still 150. Piccolo makes Drum, and he pretty easily handles Tien. Previously, Tambourine was Piccolo's strongest guy at 143, and he made him when he was at a power level of 187. So now, this stronger Piccolo could produce a much stronger soldier. So 157 for Drum, the same boost Piccolo got himself. Well, actually, Drum handles Tien pretty easily, so the gap is probably wider, like 168. But I thought that idea was neat. Goku shows up and easily handles Piccolo. Piccolo then says that if he goes all out, it shortens his lifespan. The best way I can make sense of this is by assuming Piccolo has some sort of technique that powers himself up at the cost of his own life force. They have a really even fight after that, and it seems like they're pretty relative in power. Tien helps Goku dodge a big attack, but then Piccolo uses Tien to get some cheap shots in later. so it kinda evens out. Since Goku wins, we can give Goku the slight edge. So Piccolo's full power was 232. Goku gets healed from near death again here, so you could say he got another Zenkai, but it doesn't really matter, because it just means the power he gains before the 23rd Budokai was because of that instead of his training with Kami. But we'll say he gained 28, just like last time, so he's at 262. Goku goes to see Mr. Popo and gets humbled. Popo says Goku has considerable power, but doesn't use it well. So I think we can say Popo is only a bit stronger than Goku, but also uses his energy better, so the gap in strength is wider. So he's a 270. We know Kami is even stronger, but we'll go over him in the next arc. Kami revives everyone and warns Goku of Piccolo's son, and then we skip forward 3 years. After this arc, we skip another 5 years. We know how strong everyone is after the 5-year time skip. So now we need to calculate how strong they are in between the previous and final power levels. It seems like everyone was motivated to get stronger for the years approaching the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, but slacked off a bit for the 5. Roshi was basically retired at this point and stays at the same level of 139. Yamcha was at 123 previously, and after 8 years reaches 177. So I want to give 23rd Yamcha a 162. Krillin was at 122 and jumps a comparatively impressive 206. So I'd put him around 194. Tien jumped even further from 150 to 250. He probably got some of that in the later time skip, as he's not one to slack off. So 234. Here, Piccolo inherited his father's base power of 201 and jumps to 408. I would expect that out of everyone, Goku and Piccolo, like Tien, aren't likely to slack off. So Piccolo is at 294, while Goku goes from 234 to 416. Goku and Piccolo have an insanely close fight, so I'd put them almost even at 302. In the tournament, Goku fights King Choppa in the prelims again. We'll be generous and assume he's been training. While he still gets one-tapped, we could assume something like 124. A decent improvement on his previous 100. We then see that Chaozu was easily defeated by Mecha Tao. We'll try and figure out how strong Chaozu was after we cover Tien's fight with Tao. Yajirobe fights Shen. I don't think he got any stronger before this though, so still 164. Now, the tournament proper starts. Tien decimates Tao. He was previously at 121 and became an android, likely made by Dr. Gero. This is nothing to sneeze at. We could give him a crazy jump to like 190, stronger than Old Man Piccolo, and it still makes sense for Tien to one-shot him. But if you think he's weaker, it wouldn't change anything. Now, he seemed to low-diff Chaozu, who I previously put at 90. Tien got 84 points stronger than before, so let's give Chaozu a boost of 62. So he's at 152. So Tao has to be at least 165. Okay, time for Chi-Chi. As I mentioned a while ago, one of the power levels Shonen Jump gave Chi-Chi was 130. The thing about Chi-Chi is we have no frame of reference for her. Goku beats her as easily as he beat King Choppa. He was at 120. So if you really want to imagine her at 130, it doesn't actually contradict anything. But she could just as easily be around 30 as she got out of the preliminaries. My best guess is Roshi was at 110 at the start of the series. Ox King needed Roshi's help, so Ox King was below Roshi's 110. Let's give him like an 88, as I do think he could have beaten Kid Goku. Chi-Chi likely trained with her father, so I'll say she surpassed him and reached 95. Krillin fights Piccolo. Now, we know both their levels already, but Piccolo has his weights on here. Later, they reduce him by 86 points. So, if we do that to his current level, he's at 208, working out nicely as it's close enough for Krillin's 194 for them to have a competitive match. Shen gives Yamcha the same treatment he gave Yajirobe, and we move on to Tien versus Goku. Like with Piccolo, Tien has the advantage before Goku takes off his weights. Weighted Goku is a 220, so it's no surprise he can't beat Tien at 234, but makes quick work at his full power. We then get Piccolo versus Kami. This is where things get a bit tricky. So, we know Kami is stronger than Popo, but weaker than Goku, so it makes sense to put him at like 285. This is the part where I reveal that Piccolo may or may not have been wearing weighted clothing. So the thing about this fight is Kami should be a lot stronger than weighted Piccolo. They fight for a little bit before Kame resorts to the Mafuba, so it's possible he wanted to prioritize sealing Piccolo over killing him, as he didn't want to die himself. But Piccolo then lands the surprise Mafuba reversal, so nothing in this fight actively proves he wasn't wearing weights, but it's only ever mentioned that his clothing are weighted later against Raditz with Goku. And I feel like it's implied that Piccolo started his weighted training in an attempt to copy Goku's training methods. That being said, he starts his match against Goku by taking his cloak off, and it kinda ruins his fight with Krillin, meaning it wasn't close and Piccolo was just messing with him. So, I choose to believe he was already using them, as it technically doesn't contradict anything. Afterward, Goku and Piccolo have a generational fight that's probably somewhere in my top 5 Dragon Ball fights of all time. OG Dragon Ball is truly peak. After that, the sun sets on our cast as Goku marries Chi-Chi, and they live happily ever after, for 5 years. I appreciate you coming out for this video. I've had this idea on my mind for a long time and decided to make it happen. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like and subscribing, and maybe I'll keep going through Z in a future vid. Till next time.